Near Lisbon, Portugal, a locksmith is cutting the bolts off an apartment that has been repossessed by the court, and he's putting new locks on the door. The family isn't home, and the place looks like they abandoned it. The locksmith, David Justino, says, "If it was just evicting adults, it wouldn't be a problem for me. We're all adults and we have to deal with it. What's hard is when there are children or disabled people." What some call a recession is in countries like Portugal, Greece, and Spain a full-blown depression that's hitting young people and the elderly the hardest. In Spain, the unemployment rate is 23.6%, close to the highest levels in the United States during the Great Depression. But the unemployment rate for Spaniards under the age of 25 is an incredible 50.4%, the highest in Western Europe, higher than Greece. It's created a lost generation of 20-somethings with very bleak prospects ahead of them. The adoption of the euro currency was supposed to take Spain in a prosperous direction. Spain is one of the EU countries being crushed by the euro. The one-size-fits-all nature of the currency is actually fighting against Spain's efforts to recover. On the outskirts of Barcelona, you can see one of the cemeteries for Spain's shattered real estate bubble. Buildings once under construction, now abandoned. Gravestones for a boom time that vanished. Now Barcelona blogger Santiago Perez runs a website called The New Poor, where Spain's lost generation can share their struggles. His friend Eric Luent has already decided to leave Spain for Iceland.
We have no prospects. It is very difficult to plan your life here, so we are now thinking of moving abroad. It is strange how the economic crisis has changed our viewpoint so quickly and so radically.
Judith Sants is an out-of-work agricultural engineer.
I've been unemployed for 13 months now. Nowadays, things look so bad that I am contemplating the possibility of moving abroad. The way things look today, I'm seriously thinking about it.
Alberto Rodriguez says when he finishes his MBA, he wants to move to London. During the good economic times, Europeans assumed their lavish welfare state worked well. But a historic debt crisis, business failures, and high unemployment levels have created societies in which young people just starting out see no future, no way to start their careers. Many Western nations have made it hard, if not impossible, to be an entrepreneur. In Paris, Clement Grandjean found it so hard to start a business as a young entrepreneur that instead he started a Dilbert-style comic strip that makes fun of the business culture and government regulations in France.
All the ships look the same, so it represents the path that everybody will tend to follow if they were following what society wanted them to go.
While still working on his MBA, Grandjean was trying to set up a company to export French products to Japan. Then the French government started demanding money.
And I received a really, really expensive tax that I had to pay, even if I didn't make any profit. So we worked really hard. And then government were asking us like $2,000 each just for creating the business, even if we earned $0. So we decided to stop the business before it became too expensive.
Grandjean considered leaving France, but decided to stay and try to navigate the business culture. But polls have shown most French young people wouldn't even think of starting a business. They want lifetime government jobs. Across Europe, the lost generation is angry because it believes it was handed a mess it didn't create. Too many also live with their parents, sometimes into their 40s, like Nuno Pinto in Portugal, who's already thrown in the towel and filed for bankruptcy.
I am 40 years old and I'm living off my parents. That's my painful reality. For that reason, I'm here, to see if I can get what's my last chance, a personal bankruptcy.
When these are the prospects that young people have to look forward to, it shows just how bad it's become for Europe's lost generation. Dale Hurd, CBN News, in Barcelona.
Well, this is what happens when the government becomes one of the biggest employers and you get into entitlement payments. And then how do you pay for that? Well, you pay for that through taxes. And there comes a tipping point. Are we going to face that in America? I think so. Bank of America came out with a report about a year ago that's saying if you got rid of all discretionary spending at the federal government, just completely eliminated it, So every single department got shut down, every single one. You still wouldn't solve the deficit. Now, here's something chilling. If you add to that all military spending, which isn't considered discretionary spending, you still haven't solved the deficit. Only when we come to grips with the entitlement payments from Social Security and Medicare, I'm not talking about cutting the benefit, but when we start thinking in terms of 51% of the population of America receives some kind of fund from the U.S. government, well, then how is that sustainable? How do you make that work? Back in ancient Greece, as soon as a democracy figured out how to vote itself, the city treasury, that was the first step leading to the destruction of the democracy, and in comes tyranny. Tyranny is an old Greek word, and it's when a despot takes control in a time of economic emergency to save the city. Are we going to face that in America? I don't know. But what I do know is on either side of the aisle, Republican or Democrat, no one's bringing up the issue, and it's a big issue that we all have to face.